Have you ever walked into a room and instantly felt drained? Not because anybody said anything terrible and not because something happened, but because you could feel the emotional energy in the room pulling on you. Or maybe you've noticed this online. You scroll social media for a little bit and suddenly you feel anxious, behind, dysregulated, emotionally exhausted, even though nothing technically happened to you. I think a lot of people are unknowingly feeding emotional systems all day long. And I don't think most people realize how much energy they lose doing it. That's what I want to talk about today. Because recently I had a huge realization. The work I do around human patterns under pressure, the workplace consulting, the emotional regulation, the nervous system work, my fitness background, and reality transurfing. They are all connected. And honestly, I don't think I fully understood that until recently. Welcome to the Kathie Owen Perspective Podcast. My name is Kathie Owen. I'm a private consultant, speaker, author of the book Human Patterns Under Pressure, and somebody who has spent years observing human behavior inside workplaces, leadership environments, relationships, wellness culture, and high pressure systems. And years ago, I used to talk about reality transurfing all the time on this channel. In fact, one of my most popular videos is about reality transurfing, and I will link it in the show notes and description below. People found me through those conversations, but over the last few years, I got pulled more deeply into consulting, emotional regulation, and workplace dynamics, leadership psychology, then nervous system healing, all of it. And recently, something clicked for me. I realized I've been observing pendulums this entire time, not just intellectually, practically, inside organizations, inside relationships, inside social media, inside family systems, inside fitness culture, inside myself. And what's interesting is I don't approach reality transurfing as manifestation. I never really have. I've always seen it as a framework for understanding energetic systems, emotional attachment, nervous system regulation, and the hidden forces that quietly pull people out of alignment with themselves. That's a very different conversation. And honestly, it's one of the most important things I think I've ever understood. What changed for me recently was, you're going to laugh at this, boredom. Seriously, boredom. I started spending more time sitting quietly in model homes where I worked. And at first, it drove me crazy. Every part of me wanted stimulation, scrolling, music, noise, content, something. But instead of escaping the boredom, I started observing it. And underneath the boredom, I found clarity. Creativity started returning. My nervous system started regulating differently. My thoughts became quieter. Even my dreams became calmer and more coherent. And then one day it hit me. I had stopped feeding pendulums, not through force, not because I became detached from life. I simply stopped emotionally attaching to systems trying to pull me into reaction. That changed everything. So let's talk about pendulums for a second, because I know some people hear that word and immediately think it sounds mystical or abstract, or is it a clock? I don't know. But honestly, pendulums are incredibly observable. A pendulum is basically a collective emotional system sustained by human attention, emotional reaction, and participation. And once you understand this, you start seeing them everywhere. Workplace negativity, political outrage, social media comparison, fear-based leadership, victim identities, family drama loops, scarcity thinking, hustle culture, gossip systems. All of these gain energy through emotional participation. And here's the important part. Pendulums do not care whether your reaction is positive or negative. They only require participation. That line changed the way I see human behavior because suddenly you realize the outrage feeds it, the obsession feeds it, the argument feeds it, the emotional rehearsal feeds it, even resistance feeds it. That's why some people stay emotionally exhausted. They are unconsciously participating in emotional systems all day long. This becomes really obvious on social media. And honestly, this is one of the biggest pendulums I see right now. Performance, people performing success, performing healing, performing spirituality, performing leadership, performing confidence, performing fitness. And a lot of people are draining themselves trying to emotionally keep up with performance that are not even real. I can feel it now when I scroll. Some content leaves me grounded, other content leaves me dysregulated, and it's usually because the energy beneath it. Validation seeking, comparison, attachment, performance. Performance is a big one. And what's fascinating is the pendulum rewards performance. It rewards intensity. It rewards visibility, emotional hooks, reactivity. But presence is different. Presence is quiet. Presence is coherent. Presence doesn't need to capture people emotionally. And this ties directly into my work. Because when I walk into organizations, I'm not just observing people, I'm observing the emotional systems operating underneath the people. That's what human patterns under pressure really is. I'm observing the hidden emotional structures shaping behavior inside environments. This is why certain workplaces feel exhausting, not because the work itself is necessarily hard, but because the emotional system is dysregulated. You can feel it. Fear-based communication, urgency addiction, burnout bonding, silence replacing truth, performative meetings, leaders unconsciously regulating through pressure. Some companies are being run by pendulums more than leadership. And once you see this, you cannot unsee it. People stop thinking clearly. Stress becomes identity. Pressure becomes culture. Employees start performing safety instead of speaking honestly. And eventually, the nervous system of the organization becomes reactive. That's why emotional regulation matters so much in leadership. Because leaders don't just influence strategy, they influence energetic environments. So this also changed my relationships because one of the biggest things I realized is I don't have to emotionally merge with every environment I enter. That was huge for me. I used to think caring meant absorbing. I thought love meant emotional merging. Now I understand something very different. You can love someone without feeding the pendulum operating around them. That is emotional maturity, not detachment, awareness. Because once you start observing emotional systems instead of unconsciously entering them, you can serve enormous amounts of energy. Enormous. You've got mental energy, emotional energy, creative energy, nervous system energy. And this is the beautiful part. When you stop feeding pendulums, you start hearing yourself again. Your nervous system settles. Your intuition sharpens. Your creativity returns. You stop needing constant stimulation. You stop needing emotional intensity all the time. You stop reacting to every thought. And personally, I didn't become less caring. I became less capturable. That sentence means a lot to me because I think many highly empathetic people are not actually compassionate. They are emotionally entangled. And there is a difference. One drains you, the other grounds you. Honestly, this feels like a breakthrough piece for me personally because I finally understand how all of these areas of my life connect. Reality transurfing, human patterns under pressure, emotional regulation, nervous system work, fitness, leadership psychology, presence. They're all connected through awareness, through observation, through learning how to stop unconsciously feeding emotional systems that drain us. And I think this conversation matters now more than ever because the modern world is constantly competing for your emotional energy, your outrage, your fear, your comparison, your attention, your nervous system. And most people think their exhaustion is coming from life itself. But often they are exhausted because they are feeding emotional systems that were never truly theirs to carry. All right, that's my episode for today. I trust that you found it helpful. And if you know someone who can benefit from this, please share it with them. I really believe this conversation can help people. I also wrote a very detailed blog post on this topic that includes bonus resources, examples, and deeper explanations. That link is in the show notes and description below. And if you followed me from Reality Transurfing days, welcome back. I think we're about to go much deeper now. Thank you for being here, and I'll see you in the next episode.